Let's take 5 minutes to consider what is happening on a television channel near you today, in a newspaper in front of you today. Let's take a moment just to consider what is actually happening in our world. Whether it is after 50 years North Korea and South Korea being back at each other's throats again, or the perennial problem of the Middle East, people blowing each other up, blowing themselves up too. People rioting or protesting to protect their standard of living, which obviously they can't afford, in places like Portugal and Greece. The utter and total collapse of the Irish economy as a result of extraordinarily greedy bankers. I think you might come to the conclusion that common sense, as it is commonly understood, is a very uncommon commodity. Really, all those things that I've just mentioned, and there are many, many more, are very simple but extreme examples of normal people behaving badly. See, normal people wouldn't know common sense if it slapped them across the face. Normal people wouldn't understand the phrase coming to your senses. Because normal people are programmed. That includes you and me, by the way, because we're all, to a greater or lesser extent, normal. Normal people are programmed. They are programmed in a way that only enables them react to what they think is going on. Let's take two very simple examples. First of all, once upon a time there was one bank in Ireland that wanted to be a much bigger bank than it really was. So it lent as much money as it could to all kinds of weird and wonderful people, and actually lent money to people to buy shares in itself. And that bank has now collapsed. Now, the problem is that that bank, being viewed by other bankers, other normal people, was actually taking what might loosely be described as market share. So all the other bankers had to do the same. They all had to follow suit. They all had to be part of the herd. Because if you're not part of the herd, you're weird. If you're not part of the herd, you're abnormal. And therefore you had what might have been a small problem mushroom into a massive problem. Why? Because normal people are programmed to react to what they think is going on. Let's take another example. You've Arabs and Jews blowing each other and themselves up in the Middle East, and it's been going on for some time. And yet if you look at revisionist history in relation to the history of the Middle East, you will find that Moses was an Arab. Yes, there is an emerging consensus among experts that Moses was actually known in Egyptian literature as Akhenaten, the pharaoh who introduced monotheism to Egypt and was run out of Egypt for his trouble. Why am I saying that? Well, the point is that if Moses was an Arab, what are they fighting about? The point I'm making is that we are all, as I said, to a greater or lesser extent normal. We are all programmed to react to what we think is going on. And until we can actually come to our senses, we will never actually have any sense at all. Until we come to our senses, we will continue to make nonsense of our lives, nonsense of our world. The only way you can come to your senses is by using them and paying attention to them. Now, some people have said to me, what are you talking about? Come on, you know you can see, feel, hear, smell and taste. You know you have 5 senses, at least 5 senses. But normal people don't pay those senses a blind bit of attention. They take in what they're hearing or what they're seeing and put their own spin on it based on their programming. And based on what they think is going on, react automatically, making everything worse rather than better. You've got to come to your senses. You've got to sit down and retrain yourself to be present to what is actually going on, to actually hear what you're listening to actually see what is before your very eyes. to actually fully appreciate and experience what you're actually feeling, and to taste the tastes in your mouth and smell the aromas in your nostrils, because in something as simple as that you capture the essence of the reality of life, the essence of the reality of life as it should be lived.